welcome back. Vlog number 3. I'm Ronai with Anomaly the Agency, and
This is Chynel with Chapter 28 Beauty.
all right. And so to get right to it, we decided that today's vlog was going to focus on Women's History Month. Whoop, whoop. We really just wanted to talk about, the women that inspired us to be who we are today. Whether it be family members or famous people or whatever the case may be, everybody has that one person, that one female figure in their life that really inspired them to, make changes or to just better themselves or, was just supportive. Sometimes that's all we need is just that genuine support. And so we thought it would be a great thing to discuss today. So I'll start off. For me, I have 2 categories, I guess I would say, as far as women that inspire me. First would be actual people, female in history, actual celebrity, I guess, so to speak, or a famous person. Frida Kahlo. Anybody that knows me knows that that is my everything. You come into my apartment, she's literally everywhere in here, down to the coasters, I'm telling you. Um,
Oh my God.
so yeah, she's a huge inspiration for me, and she has been for quite some time. Some of the major things that I pick up from her is passion. Like she was always very passionate from what you read and from what you've seen, biographical movies and things like that. She had a passion for both men and women, which I thought was a beautiful thing, especially considering her time. And for herself, she was known for painting nothing but self-portraits. And she always said it was because that's what she knows best. And she always felt that that's what art was about. And so I really feel like she was a game changer in the sense that she just did not give into tradition whatsoever. I mean, even as a kid, she hated wearing dresses, and she just was always doing things that were not considered normal for females at that time, especially. And so, aside from that, her uniqueness, anybody that has seen Frida, she has a unibrow, you know what I mean? So by society standards, that's not considered beautiful, but still she was absolutely beautiful in presentation and thought process. And I thought that always made her very unique. Her style. She always dressed very similar to her Mexican ancestry. She always wanted to kind of be a little out of the box, but then she would also show up in men tuxedos for every now and then. So she was very unique in that way as well. And then, of course, her artwork. Very detailed. Some people would call her a surrealist, but she never accepted that title. She always just felt like her paintings were a true definition of who she was and the world that she lived in. And so she just wouldn't allow people to put her in a box. And I think, again, just kind of going back to the time period that she was raised in and the time where she was, most popular, it just, says a lot about how, females went around and changed the game, even if it was a little fraction of the time. And then her strength, of course, too. She was in a full body cast for quite some time. That is actually when she started her painting lifestyle. That's when she wanted to be a doctor. And so once she got into that accident and it kept her in bed rest for months on end, she decided that what her true passion was actually painting. And again, just painting what she knew, which was herself. And so she spent a lot of time just doing that and built on her craft, breaking barriers and, again, changing the game, even having that little peak of motivation in the LGBTQ and, family and everything like that, really just doing things ahead of her time in a sense. And I feel like, there were a lot of people probably doing the same thing, but I feel like she really made a voice for that. And she wasn't scared. She was very courageous in her steps. And I think that was just a beautiful thing. And so she's just always been a major inspiration of mine. And so major credit to her for allowing me to want to continue my passion as well and to break barriers and not allow people to put me in a box as well. On a more personal note, other women that inspire me, my mom, and my aunt. I was raised by a village. Sometimes it takes a village, and I definitely had mine. And I'm very thankful for my village, even down to opening each door and listening to different types of music. I think that's probably the most influential part of my memories, my childhood memories that I could never let go of. literally just walking into each room, somebody's playing oldies. Then you're hearing pop and a little bit of country in the other room. Then it's hip hop and R&B in the other room. Then it's reggae in the other room. And it really just taught me about diversity right off the bat. You know what I mean? And just how important that is and how it all comes together. And it allows you to kind of form your own opinion on things and let yourself know, again, you don't have to be put into a box. And it's a beautiful thing to be open-minded and to listen to different things and have an open perspective. And so, these three women, they definitely did a lot of that for me, my biggest supporters, no matter what, and I appreciate them more than anything. One taught me strength. One taught me emotion and empathy. One taught me how to be a badass and how to take no bullshit. And I think all of that together, that's what really forms a person and makes them great because they have so many different sides to them. And so, yeah, those are really the influential women in my life with so many more others, even you, Chynel, and my girls in general. I feel like we are great at motivating each other, pushing each other, down to our conversations, just being able to keep it real. One thing I always pride myself on is having a squad that isn't afraid to be honest. I see, unfortunately, a lot of people that are around yes men all the time. And I'm so thankful that that's not what we do here. Because there's no way that I'm a yes man. No, if I don't agree, I don't agree, and right back at you. You know what I mean? I know it's the same thing. We've always been able to call each other on our stuff, and when we're wrong, we're wrong. And I think you have to have people like that. You know what I mean? Once you get around people that are just gonna yes men the hell out of you, you're just going to be caught up in all kinds of things that just don't even make sense. You know what I mean? Whereas you have to have a team that's solid. And, I'm thankful for my girls having different perspectives. One thing I love is like, we're not the same. You know what I mean? We have certain connections that make us similar, but we're not the same at all. And that's always been important to me. I think people a lot of times get caught up in the guilty by association and all of that. And I've never related to that because there's so many people in my circle that I'm nothing like, but there's just that one beautiful thing that really connects us and that really motivates us and gets us to do better. And I think it's important to acknowledge that within your circle. You know what I mean? And so shout out to y'all for being a part of my everyday as well. So Chynel, it's all you.
Yeah, so motivation and inspiration. I don't have any celebrities, and I don't know how I feel about that. Like, because I never even thought of it. Like, what celebrity inspires me? I never really cared to look into anybody else's life besides the ones who are
Right.
around me, my immediate family. Um, and I always thought it was really important to have inspiration, have someone inspiring that's right in front of you. Like, of course,
Absolutely.
my mother is obviously my inspiration on a whole nother level, but just honestly, for me, it's just all the women that I grew up with, the strong women. And pretty much everybody around me was strong in some type of way. I'm a bunch of weak women. That definitely ain't it. But my cousin, uh, my older cousin, my aunt. I have a lot of aunts. My friends' parents, just women in general. Everybody I was around was always telling me, to do what I think is best and go for what I believe in myself, confidence. And the strong Black women situation that was very heavy in my household. My mom was very strong. She was independent, or is independent, and so on and so forth with my aunts. I really just look to people who are there to help others along. That's my inspiration. Like, I like to be around people who are all about education and not really making it about themselves. Like, if I'm talking to Ronai, I'm talking to Ronai and I'm listening to Ronai and trying to understand Ronai. And I think that's where we connect so well, is because we're not literally talking to each other just to have something to say back to each other. Like, we are trying to learn from each other's mistakes, we're trying to learn from each other's lifestyles, and we're trying to share that with other people who may be similar to that person. So yeah, I mean, obviously we can go into detail, super detail, about how much, our parents mean to us and all that stuff. But I feel like just people in general who want to see the world be great, who believe in equality, who are passionate about whatever it is that they're doing. That
Mm-hmm.
Those are the people who inspire me. And I have, having a child, I have a little girl now. I have a 10-year-old son and I have a 2-year-old daughter. And I said, like, no shade to like any of the rappers like Cardi B, Nicki, or any of that, but like, I don't want my child growing up talking about somebody else. I truly want my child to grow up talking about me. Like, well, my mom and she did this, and when Caden, he was in the back seat with me yesterday, and we were driving. He seen a lease. A strip mall had like a storefront, and it had lease across. And he was like, "Look, mom, you can open up a salon there too. That can be your store."
Mhm.
Just things where he notices what I'm doing every day. He asks me every morning, "Do you have work?" He just asked me this morning. He's like, "Do you got to go to work because you got makeup on and your hair is done?" I was like, I do have to day, on a video. And he was like, "Oh, okay." But like little things like that, where he notices what's going on, and he's going to remember that when he gets older, that grind and that hunger and that hustle that his mom had, that his father had, that his stepfather had, that his grandmother, his uncles, everybody around him had.
Right.
That's going to hopefully inspire him, and as well as my daughter. And that's what I look to be. I live now to be an inspiration for my children. So
Right.
yeah, that's about it.
No, I love that. I mean, obviously, I don't have kids, so I don't have that to an extent, but I do have my little cousins, which are my pride and joys. You know what I mean? So I feel the same way, you know what I mean? Even to posting certain things, you know what I mean? Not that I'm monitoring myself or I'm holding myself back, but it's just like they're
Right.
watching and their opinion very much matters to me. You know what I mean? And so, and it is the little things. They are sponges and they do pick up things and they end up carrying that on. And a lot of time it turns into baggage. You know what I mean? So you just want to be mindful of the baggage you're putting on them. You know what I
Correct.
mean? For when they get older, you know what I mean? Do you want them to be out here thinking, no shade, no shade at all. But to be a bottle girl, you want them to be out here thinking like, yo, I want to start my own business and have my own bottle girls. You know what I mean? Like, which
Right.
one is it? You know what I mean? I see, and again, no shade. Everybody's hustle is everybody's hustle. I respect it. I may not agree with it, but it's yours alone, and that's a beautiful thing. Um, but I just, and that's also very motivating too, is like kind of seeing those different mindsets that you really don't agree with. I think those are the mindsets that really put things in perspective for you, especially when you know yourself. You know what I mean? It's kind of like, okay, well, that's definitely not how I feel about that. And I'm very happy that I don't feel that way about it. You know what I mean? Because this is what's really working for me. And I think that's important. And, again, just being real and acknowledging, like, again, you might want to do that. That's your hustle. I respect it. I support it. But that's not what I'm about to do. And you just better respect and support me too, the same way I respect and support you. You know what I mean? That's really all I can ask for. And so, it's very interesting. And I love just being around motivational people in general. You know what I mean? Like, again, people that call you on your stuff and, people that aren't afraid to be like, nah, you're slacking right now. Cause I feel, especially, I'm not going to lie, being back home, I feel super like I'm outspoken. Like, I feel like I have everything I could possibly say. I have to say it. I have
Right.
to say it. And I think it's because I see a lot of people not saying it. And I'm just kind of like, hey, this might be the one sign you needed. And if I have to be the one to give it to you, by all means, like, let me give it to you. What you decide to do with it is your own choice. But I can't sleep at night knowing like I had the opportunity to inspire you and I didn't, even if
Right.
just a little bit. You know what I mean? Like, and I noticed that, with certain people that kind of coming out of their shell a little bit, like, oh, look at this, possible business opportunities. And I'm like, in my mind, I'm like, damn, like I feel good. You know what I mean? Like it makes me feel good. Like, wow, okay, like you are hearing me, and I'm not, the all knowing by no means, but like by any means, but it's nice to know that, you're being heard and you have people that are like taking steps to like really motivate themselves too. Like it feels good. And the payoff is it's a great feeling. So I feel that
Yeah,
definitely.
I 100% agree. 100% agree. I just, and then it's a joy to be around people like that. I think
Hmm.
that the thing about our connection is that we don't think that we're right. Even though my cup says Miss Always Right. Contradicting, I didn't buy this cup, my husband did.
Right.
But um, we don't think like we know everything. And if you're saying something and you believe something, then I'm open to that. And I'm like, okay, well, maybe that is possible because I trust that you've done your research and you
Hmm.
trust that I've done my research to be able to bring you such knowledge, like,
Right.
or, to have this type of conversation. And if neither one of us know what we're talking about, we'll say that famously for it. Like,
Right.
don't take my word for it. I actually don't know. Now we get online, okay, we do a little bit more research, and that is what's going on. But it's more of like a views thing versus you're right and I'm wrong. It's all opinions that we throw out constantly. And I think that keeps us safe. I do not remember a time where me and Ronai argued. I have no recollection of it, and we've been friends for years. We may have disagreed on something as far as like if we're out and about, like, oh, she don't want to go to that bar, or we don't want to go to that club, or whatever the case may be. I'm gonna go this way. I'm like, what is the problem? Why don't you want to go? Like, where are you going? Like, just because we really enjoy each other's time, but we've never argued or anything, and I've never taken anything that serious. We're invested in our friendship, but that's it. And that's it. Everything that we do is for each other is it's just on a different scale, a different level of a friendship, you know. A lot of people run around talk about my best friend, my best friend. I don't really have best friends. Like, I think I stopped saying that when I moved away. Like, because I have family at this point. Everybody who I deal with is family. Like, these people, when they start investing in you and they check up on you and they want to make sure you're good, and you return that favor, you return that listening ear, you become a family member. You become somebody who they love at the end of the day. You know, you have love for. So, you know, we're very conscious about each other's relationship, and it could be months, going on years that we don't speak. And when we do speak again, it's like we never not spoke. You know, and I have that. That's so dope. And that's because she has her own life and I have my own life, and we respect each other's lives, and we're not mad at each other because we moved on to bigger and better things. We've done it together. You know what I mean? Like, it's hard for people who don't have much going on and they invest all their time in someone, and the next you know, that person says they're getting in a relationship, or they got to move out of town, or whatever, where it's going to take, you know, the attention off of you. Now you feel some type of way. And I'm like, are y'all together? Like, are y'all sleeping together? Or like, what is the real problem? Because this can't be it. I'm sorry, but are you that invested? You just can't seem to figure out why this person would ever leave you like this. Or it gets toxic, honestly, when you're that dependent on somebody's spirit to uplift you. But
no, and it's funny you say that, because I was just thinking about that the other day, because there's certain friendships where we talk every single day. So when that switch up occurs, it's kind of like, oh, so you're really not talking to me every day right now. But then you really have to be like, wait, but at the end of the day, like, us talking to each other every day means nothing is getting done. Number one. Number two, we have too much time on our hands. Like, I'm just like, it's okay. You know what I mean? But I absolutely cherish and love the friendships where we not fall off, but like you said, we don't speak for months or whatever. But then the minute we talk, it's all love. We pick up right back where we came, you know, where we left off. And so it's so important. And I think that's a hard pill for a lot of people, a lot of you viewers out here to swallow, and myself included at one point. You know what I mean? I am proud to say I've overcome that. You know what I mean? I think it's a maturity thing. I think it's just a general understanding of that people aren't against you. They're just for themselves. And I think that was kind of my biggest eye opener for me. You know what I mean? And not in a negative way. It was just like, look, like, we can't, you know, hang out and we can't do these things because I'm doing this. You know what I mean? People are starting families. You know, we are at that age, realistically. Like, people are starting families. You know what I mean? So it's just like, and it's okay. It's okay for that to be a thing. And it's okay for you to not text or chit chat every day, but at the end of the day, when you do speak, like, you still have that love. It's still, nothing changed. It's just, you know, the time is, you know, extended, you know, between conversations. And so I think that's very important. And even going back to your point about how you said, like, you know, the people that have inspired you have always been people that you've known that were in your corner. I love that. And you're absolutely that person. You know what I mean? I think that's very important to your character. I just, you know, I do want to say too, for people that don't have that in their lives, because I see that a lot too, you know, especially women, let's be real, you know, not even on some feminist, you know, type of thing, but women are backbones, period. You know what I mean? We can stomach a lot of things, you know, same way as men. And, you know, we don't always get that credit. And I think that's important. And so it's unfortunate for people that don't have that love and support personally. And so I hope if you haven't already, you do find that inspiration. If not in us, through these vlogs, just in general, I hope you allow yourself to trust somebody and allow somebody in that way to really motivate you, and understand that, sometimes it is your family that holds you back. That's the unfortunate fact. I've seen that before in other people. And so knowing that, I hope it's okay to allow a teacher or a stranger off the street to provide you with that, motivation, inspiration that you need, for real, for real. So I did want to just add to that really quick.
Yeah. And don't buck. When somebody's trying to tell you something that you don't want to hear, that's usually when you need to shut up. When you feel like you want to, that's probably when you need to listen, because they're actually telling you something that you definitely need to know, regardless if you agree with it or not. But it also gives you a different outlook on what it is that you're doing and what they're responding to, so that you can then make that decision of, well, am I doing this the right way, or is my approach a little rough? Or, a lot of us are rough around the edges in the beginning as we're, growing and maturing. But once you realize how to, walk in a room full of professionalism and dedication, that doesn't exist anymore. You check yourself at the front door. Like, if you got to get together in the car, you just like, okay, listen, I'm about to go in here and I'm about to, I do that.
Well,
I'm a person that drives silent. If I'm going somewhere for like a job interview or a presentation or something that I have to do, the radio is going off. I'm thinking the whole way there. I'm answering my own questions, and that is it. It's showtime. Once I get out that car, it's showtime. You can see a whole nother side of me. Yeah. So I know that a lot of people can relate to that. Like I'm an overthinker. Ronai is an overthinker on another level. Like we're always telling each other, all right, you don't have, I think you're doing too much, just a little too much. But it's necessary. That's the character. And it's better to overthink something than not think about it at all. To not even think about it. Like, because you need to be prepared. And if you're not prepared, you just let a lot of stuff pass you by, and a lot of opportunities, that won't come again. And they're going to fly right past you. Right past you.
Absolutely. So I will say with that, think about your routine. You know what I mean? Like, think about what you got to do to get in the zone. And you know what zone I'm talking about. I'm talking about the zone. It doesn't matter what you're doing, who you're with, whatever that zone is. Think about what you got to do to get in there. Me, I'm interviewing all day by myself. Girl, I've been on so many TV shows you don't even know. They don't even know it. I be in the car interviewing myself like crazy. So Ronai, like, da-da-da-da-da. Girl, answer it. I'm a weirdo. So naturally, I'm in the car talking it up. But it just makes me feel good because within my field, like, technically I'm behind the scenes a lot of the time. So I always just kind of think about it from the perspective of potential client that I'm helping out or whatever. You know what I mean? I've had the opportunity of sitting and watching people being interviewed on the news and things like that. And I have been, on shows, not shows, like the news or something, like really quick for some good stuff. But I just think, I always think like that, like if I, end up doing all of the things that I plan on doing, which I probably will. I will. Let's take out the probably. I will be things. And I always think about the interviews and the conversations I'm going to have, and, who, just making sure that I'm humble in my process and I don't forget the people that stuck by my side when I'm right here sitting in my kitchen, recording on my phone, like it's just very important. But you got to know what gets you in your zone, whether it be, I always tell people, write it out. You know what I mean? Vlog it out, take a walk, talk to your dog. Listen, whatever you got to do that. You know what I mean? Take a look at your kids and really get inspired by them, whatever it is that you have to do, but definitely figure out your zone. What puts you in your zone, for real. So
figure out your zone. Let's write that down. That's every day.
Right.
Right. So moving forward, leaving out of inspiration, definitely want our viewers to think about what inspires you, what wakes you up and, gives you that motivation to do better. Who is it? And actually thank them. You probably want to reach out to them and just let them know that they did this for you. I've lately been doing that. Like, a lot of, even though they're not women, a lot of my educators back home, in my orchestra and just things I used to do prior to moving, in my high school career, they really like had my back. They really pushed me for things that I just would have given up on just because I didn't have the support from the family. And where I, if you're playing a basketball game, you want your family in the stand. If you're performing anything, you want your family and that person who you really look up to be in the stands. And for me, unfortunately, because my mother was so busy working 22 jobs, she wasn't there as much as I wanted her to be. And I understood that. She made sure I understood, like, can't make it, or, if my dad couldn't make it, or, my brothers, my cousins, somebody was always there. And if they weren't there, my teachers were there and they were standing there and they were just like, you know what, you're going to do great. And, even if they had to buy me, something to make it, or a ticket or whatever I needed, I always had it. I was always fortunate enough to have it. So now that I'm older, I try to reach back and touch as much people as I can in my city. And in the process of trying to get things going in our city, from a different perspective, because me and Ronai, we both left the city, at a young age, and we traveled enough to know that there's a lot of other things out here that our city knows nothing about. And then a lot of ways to move that need to be introduced to these inner city children and kids, and where we come from. Because if not, they don't have somebody like us to look up to who knows what they're going to get into. And that's anywhere, not just Reading, that's everywhere. Any and everywhere that is poverty stricken and all that, you're going to have that. So, altogether, let these people who inspire you know that they inspire you so that they can continue to do it for other people, Yeah. So moving forward, do you want to do emotional, professional? What are we going to touch on today? Originally, I had said last week that we were going to do professionalism. Professionalism. Sorry.
Professional. Hey.
Yeah.
We can probably mix in, the two in some way. So.
Right. So, professionalism for me is like a really, really big deal. I don't know where people get off thinking when they're working for somebody else, especially when you're working for somebody else, that they can be anything but professional to the customer or the client. That to me is like the most disrespectful thing you could do, because now I'm a brand and I own my brand. So when I have somebody working for me, I expect that person, even though it might just be one or two people, I expect that person to handle situations as I would on a professional level when they're giving service to anybody. And that expectation and standard doesn't go away. That's just what it is. And you got to make sure that that person that you're hiring on, or just in general, you have to have integrity. That's the biggest thing. You have to have integrity. That is like, if you don't, people don't take you serious. Like, if you have just no integrity at all, no standards, no nothing, who is taking you serious? I don't know, Randy. How do you feel about that?
I agree. I think integrity is everything. And I think, keeping your word in general, I think one of the main things for me that really inspired me, I think I've always wanted to do this since I knew I wanted to pursue this career. I'd known that I wanted to have my own business. But I think what really started pushing me over the last year or two was watching how these companies will say one thing and do something different, period. And I acknowledge that as companies and as you grow and, certain things that are required, it may be hard to move a certain way. But I think what's really important is being transparent in what you're trying to do here. You know what I mean? If not with your customers, because there's a certain line, you know what I mean, that you can't cross with your customers, at least with your employees. Keep them in the loop. Help them fully understand so that they can work to the best of their ability, and acknowledge them, especially with your clients. Acknowledge them, and people know when they're just a client. You know what I mean? But when you go that extra mile, you send them a thank you for doing this, or you send them a bottle of wine after completing, I don't know, meeting a business goal, period. You know what I mean? When you do those little things, it really sets a standard, and it really shows, oh, wow, not only is, she helping me improve my business, but she also actually acknowledges me as a person and not just a client, and I think, having that personality, bringing a personality into the workspace, but also keeping that professionalism, you know what I mean? And just trying you know, one of the best things you can do is, you know, continue to tell yourself, at least, you know, there is a line between business and, you know, friendship as well. I was just having this conversation with somebody the other day. They're interested in, you know, they have a plan, you know, they want to start their own business, but the company they currently work for, they're struggling with letting them go. And it's strictly out of loyalty. The company hasn't really done much for them besides provide a steady paycheck, which of course is a beautiful thing, especially at this time. But the true reality of the situation is they're not happy in that. And so I think you really have to come to terms with the fact that, like, you know, this is business, and you have to have those conversations with very little emotion, unfortunately, which is kind of a contradiction to showing some emotion, but it's kind of just knowing when and when not to. And I think that's a struggle for a lot of people, a lot of businesses, especially when you become huge. When you're Fortune 500 companies, it's hard to have any type of emotional interest in anybody because people are replaceable. We're all replaceable, and that's the fact of the matter. And that's why a lot of people do start their own businesses, because they want to get away from that feeling of insecurity and replacement. You know what I mean? And so I think transparency within the workplace is key, very important, whether it's just you, and that goes back to you having real life conversations with yourself, or whether it's with your 10 employees, your 5 employees, your one other employee. Keep them in the loop. You know what I mean? If things aren't working, they have to know. If things are changing, they have to know. You know what I mean? Because at the end of the day, it really does affect people's performance. And, you know, just staying true to who you are, you know what I mean, in your company, you know, in your business, you know what I mean? You have your body butter, you have your product coming out, you know what I mean? And I think it's important staying true to ingredients. I think especially you have touched base on that last time where you were just saying, like, you know, the stuff that you put into this is stuff that you would put on yourself as well. It's not just you're creating a product just to sell it and just to make money. I think that's important. And it shows that you're being true to your character, and you're, you know, you're showing care to your clients. It's not just to make a quick buck. It's not just to try to make a quick come up, which is oftentimes people's thought process. You know, you're thinking long term, like, okay, they're going to use this product, and it's not like 6 months from now, all their hair is going to fall out. No, you know what I mean? That's a whole lawsuit down the line. You're not doing that. What you're doing is you're taking time to understand what you're putting into this product and how it will positively affect them in the long run. And I think that's very important, you know, and that's with anything, you know. I think, you know, memories, even for DJs, you know, you're creating memories at weddings and quinces and all these little events and stuff. And it's like, you know, a lot of times people are going to remember the music that was playing. I'm such a music person. Even when I'm working out, I'm thinking about the music that's playing in the background. Like, that's what inspires me. I'm trying to hear a little guitar. I'm trying to hear a little hip hop. I'm trying to hear a little bit of everything. You know what I mean? So, you know, you got to really think about long-term influence. I think that's really important, you know, as far as professionalism goes, though. I think transparency is a very important thing for me.
Yes, absolutely. Transparency, that right there, transparency is on everybody's list. One of the things that I wanted to mention that I see a lot, and I was taught this at a very young age. I can't remember when, but I just always knew, like, you probably shouldn't bring up like religions and politics in a business. That's for my industry, that is a no go. Like, that's a no go. You know right from wrong, and that is definitely wrong. When you're working so close with people you're going to be with for a extended amount of time, how they think and feel about you matters. So you don't want to say anything that's going to, you know, counteract that judgment with religion or politics. And I see a lot of people, especially like for me, I worked in a salon where you could tell the clientele was mostly Republican. You could tell that was obvious.
Right.
And as soon as they see me, one of the only African American women in the business, they think I'm automatically a Democratic, which is fine. I could care less what anybody thinks. I never confirm anything because I don't want that conversation to get out of hand, and it will.
Right.
When you're a service provider, the customer is what always right. So you're always wrong, and that means you can never win that conversation. So
right.
they thought I was a Democratic, and or you know that was definitely their thought process, and I knew because they would say things to coax me, like to push my button about Trump, and I wouldn't budge, like, you know, or they try to have a conversation with me about Trump and the latest interview he's done and how they feel so, you know, positive about his presidency. And I wouldn't even shade. I was like, you
Right.
know what? That's awesome. You know what? But honestly, this color, I don't think this works best for you. I think we should try to go see and,
Right.
definitely. And moving forward, we're going to
Right.
change the dynamic of this. And I would always, and they didn't even realize what I was doing half the time, because they would circle back to talking about it again. But I would circle back to, is this clock too hot for you? Or, can I heat this up where I have to get up and
Right.
take several breaks from that so that you don't mess that up for yourself. And they respect it at the end of the day. These people know. They know you're
Yeah.
not go into that. They know what they're doing. They're pushing buttons. But when you don't give them what they want on that end and you maintain your level of professionalism, they can appreciate that. And they'll be back. They'll be back. But people have to be aware of those types of things. And it's coming up way too much with everything that's going on. Obviously, we have right now the coronavirus, and everybody has something to say about this coronavirus. And I mean, I usually wouldn't bring anything like this up because, again, there's too many opinions, and I'm glad we're not on live right now because they will be flooding in.
Right.
But I just stay really low key with it. I do what I believe I need to do to get through my day, and for my children, I don't sit here and voice what I think other people should be doing. Obviously, everybody needs to take precautions and the necessary precautions that you probably should have been taking your whole life. But now that it's such a big thing, you guys want to be all out there online talking about every step of the way that how you're going to protect yourself, which is funny to me. It's actually very funny to me. And hopefully when this video airs and goes on, we will not have it won't be as bad. Ronai called me this morning and said, I think, how's it going on? How's it going down there? I think you guys are in a state of emergency. And I'm like, a state of emergency? Are we really? Like, I didn't see anything about a state of emergency. But again, I don't really do the online. I don't really watch too much news. So everything I see is usually by like my phone or my mother-in-law. She's really big on like every update. So she'll call me and we'll know from what she says, and she's tied into like, the government. She knows everything that's going on pretty much. And that's where we go from there. But Ronai, how do you take the religion and politics, especially in your industry?
I absolutely agree. Especially just me being who I am, being non-traditional in general. You know what I mean? And like I said, just going back to the outspoken, I know I love healthy debate. So for me, naturally, I'm like, but I also acknowledge that people can't handle a healthy debate. So right off the bat, I'm like, we don't have to talk about this. You know what I mean? Like, especially when it comes to professionalism. I think, what you said, like kind of just digressing and just flipping it around and going back to what you're really here for. I think that's the best thing you can do for people that feel comfortable, which I highly advise against that. But if you feel comfortable having a conversation about those two things, religion or politics, just be mindful, be open-minded. If you're going to go that route, then you have to be open-minded. And I think that's very important. And I think you have to use that advice even outside of business. You know what I mean? I think that's probably one of our biggest issues as, society is we don't know how to be open-minded. We don't know how to exchange opinions without getting offended by them. And that's one thing I just feel like in a professional setting, you can't do, even if, I've heard it all, working for certain companies, especially in Colorado, people were very much, red. And so it was very interesting to hear the opinions of people. And like you said, kind of being snarky or saying it in a way to kind of coax you. And, you just kind of like laugh it off. And like, a lot of times I get the opinion like, oh, wow, you're just really like chill. And I'm like, I don't really know what you wanted me to do, but I'm not going to sit here and be like, oh, first of all, your opinion is your opinion. That's a beautiful thing. You form this opinion on your own, hopefully, and despite what's real or what's not, that's how you feel about it. So I'm not going to take that away from you, but I'm certainly not going to sit there and spend a lifetime trying to convince you otherwise. There's a time and a place for that. And it certainly is not right here in this office or anywhere that has to do with us trying to be professional and put together a plan, because one way or another, somebody ends up getting their feelings hurt. And more than likely, it's the person that's coaxing you into having that conversation. So it's just best to not have it, period. I just think, in general, I think we just give those two things just way too much power, if I'm speaking honestly. And so I I personally wouldn't, I just try not to do that, because I just think, you know, you give that so much power, and your decisions are based a lot off of those two things, which for a lot of cases they have to be. And I respect that, but I don't think in all cases it has to be. And so, yeah, I think those two things in general, don't, if you can avoid it. And like you said, you know, just, oh, wow, that's amazing. First of all, they educated you. So let's clap for them. You know, they educated you. They told you something you probably didn't know, or you just didn't have the facts on. That's wonderful. You know what I mean? And even if they didn't educate you, hey, you know what I mean? They spoke their truth. And, you know, we gotta let people do that sometimes. You know what I mean? Even if it sounds like, okay, that's a little crazy. In a professional setting, you have to bite your tongue, whether you want to admit that or you want that to be okay or not. You have to bite your tongue sometimes. It doesn't matter how outspoken you are. Like, you have to be able to know when to say when. You know, there's a time and a place, and I think that ties right into, you know, being able to communicate in diverse settings. You have to know your audience. You have to know when you can use words like yo and da 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 versus hey, how you doing? You know, when you get real professional, you know what I mean? You got to know the difference, because there are some conversations with professionals that you can have, and it's like you're speaking ebonics and you totally get it. But then there's those conversations where you got to be straight up. You got to be on your P's and Q's. You know what I mean? Everything got to be on point, and that's the reality of the situation. And I think anybody telling themselves otherwise is bullshit. And I don't know how else to say that. I think it's just, you're kind of just, that is the fact of the matter. And it is what it is. So yeah, and moving forward.
Okay, and moving forward, well, I mean, professionalism, it irks me when I walk into a business and I see people just doing their own thing and not even understanding the bigger picture. And I always say, like, if you feel like, you know, you need to be unprofessional, I'm sorry. If you feel like you need to be unprofessional, then it's probably not somewhere you need to be anymore. It's not. And that ties into like your self-care. Like, you care enough about yourself that you don't want to have this type of toxic environment around you to where it brings you out of character. And that's what I've done. Reggie will tell you, he'll tell you in a heartbeat. If she is not comfortable with the environment, she is going to quit. And not quit like, oh, I'm out, I'm done, I'm walking away. I'm going to give you your 2 week notice. I'm going to tell you what I did not appreciate and what I did not like about your business. And then I'm going to go on and move forward. I'm not going to harp on it. There's no conversations that we need to have, because sometimes owners and, you know, CEOs and the big wigs have no idea most of the time. I mean, I say sometimes. Most times, these people have no idea what the front line is about. And they gotten into this business because they had the money and they partnered up and there was a plan and they just said go. But they have no idea what a lot of people deal with on the front end. And that is how you make your money. Yeah. So I feel like you should be treating your front end amazing. You should be making sure they are well taken care of. And for a lot of companies, that's not the case. You guys are the last, you know, you're the last person to the punch. And that's ignorant, and that's why I've had to grow a pair and become an entrepreneur, because I just was tired of people being used and abused, and myself even being used and abused to the point where I was just like, this is insane. Like, there's no way you could just be this type of company. And the times have just changed. You know, the benefits and things that people used to give, and those don't even exist anymore. You know, you're really out here just barely making it. So yeah, take your professionalism. This is obviously a lot of our business owners watch our, you know, our show, our vlog. A lot of my friends who own their own businesses, who are entrepreneurs, and that is just my one thing to you. Keep it professional as a small business, because one day you're going to be a big business, and one day you're going to grow to the point where it's not just you. It's going to be you and 35 others or 400 others. And at that point, you can't control what everybody else does when you're not around. You just have to trust that their integrity is on point, and they are moving and operating as they would if it were you in the front line. Mm-hmm. So
yeah, and you know, even adding on to that, you know, aside from that, you know, and when you mentioned the front line, you know, let's be clear, we all thought customer service, because I feel that customer service gets the worst end of it every single time. And you know, in my last company that I worked for, you know, I really saw that. I didn't work in customer service, but I dealt with them in my department a lot, and I always felt for them, because you know, they are the ones on the front line. They're the faces of your company. They're the ones that are getting the craziness, the complaints, all of that, and they had to maintain their professionalism no matter how much they're getting cussed out. So and I think that, like you said, that kind of drove me, because it was kind of like, you don't even see, you know what I mean? Like, yes, that's their position. And granted, they have to accept that in certain ways, but it's like, how are they, how is their time being made up for that, whatsoever? It's stressful. And a lot of times they end up taking that work home. And that's what you don't want to do. That's another thing, getting to the point where you don't take work home if you don't have to, you know what I mean? Being able to separate your personal time from your work time, being able to spend time with your family and your friends, and being able to just focus in that moment.
Right.
But also, if you are in a position, and this is a lot of things, I feel like everyone has heard this, but they don't really feel it. And if you need that sign again, here it is. If you are not happy with your current situation, dead it. Be
Quickly.
out.
Yeah.
Please. It is not worth the pain and heartache and depression and everything that you're feeling, to the point where you just want to give up on everything else, because it affects the ones that you love, and it affects you the most, of course. Like, and that's the hardest pill to swallow, because you know what comes with that: stress, you know what I mean? Financial insecurity a little bit, you know what I mean? But it's like, you already have that, and you have this job. So really, what is the difference, aside from you taking time, being a little more broke, but then also going out and seeking something that genuinely makes you happy?
Right.
I think that's important. And I think that, at times like those, you have to have those conversations with yourself, and it is okay. It's okay. I feel like for me, it was very hard to be a quitter, um, especially when it came to work. And I would be like, man, like, I don't want to do it. You know what I mean? Like, you have a certain loyalty, or you just feel like, okay, what about this? And, like she said, I'm an overthinker to the max. So I'm thinking about things like, what? You know what I mean? Like, random things. And it's just like, but when you get to that point, and when you start to notice your attitude totally change when you walk in the door at work, yeah, it's time to go. When you're
Right.
noticing that you got an attitude for no reason, as soon as people say hello, you're mad about it, it's time for you to go. It's time for you to go, like, for real. And it could
Right.
be a week or two into that job. It could be 5, 10 years into that job. When you know it's your time, you know it's your time. And I think the scary part is just actually knowing that and accepting that, and then moving forward. But, that's what we're here to do. So,
Right.
hey.
Right. Exactly. Well, I think that was a good point. Acknowledging when it's that time, and not necessarily meaning that you have to go. Set the tone, set the standard. Go to your boss, go to your supervisor, and let them know like what you're just not going to deal with. And honestly, you should probably do that in the beginning when you get the job. But for a lot of people, they're afraid to, when they're coming on to a company, they're afraid to speak their truth and how they operate, because they want that job so bad. But if you don't set these standards, and you don't set these things in place for people to understand what you are and are not going to deal with, they're not going to just treat you any old way or talk to you any type of way. That is when you'll start to get some type of, comfortable feeling within your company, and you'll be able to grow too, because they would respect that you put these things in place for growth. But, a dead end job is a dead end job, and we all know what dead end jobs are. Those are
Right.
different. We're talking about jobs that can turn into careers, that can turn into growth and things of that nature. Um, so, I'm very clear in my, if I were applying for a job at this point, I'm very clear in what I'm looking for. Salary, we have an issue talking about money. That is a serious question. If it's on the application and asking you, how much do you require? How much do you want to make? Don't lowball yourself just to get the job. Do not do that. There is somebody out there, if you're qualified. Also, don't apply for something you are not qualified to do, unless you are extremely coachable. Because I'm a coachable person. I feel like I can do just about anything. If you tell me what I
Right.
need to do and I can handle the physical, I can pretty much do anything, because I've been in so many different situations and so many different environments that I'm like a chameleon. I can just blend in and I'll do what I need to do. And because I'm a hard worker, you don't ever have to worry about me not following the rules or not doing what I need to do behind your business. So if you're coachable, which a lot of us struggle with, being coachable, being told what to do, when to do it, and how to do it, but that's our whole
Right.
life. You were born being told what to do, how to do, and when to do it. So why it's a problem, I don't understand. But yeah, just these different things that you always have to think about when you're trying to move forward, and keep it in mind. Keep it in mind, and understand, and breathe, and talk yourself down as much as you need to, so that you're not, again, coming out of character, creating more of a headache for yourself than there needs to be. Just move forward. It's all about just moving forward. Whatever you need to do to move forward, that's what
Hmm.
you
I
do.
agree. I absolutely agree. And even going back to your mention about salary, because like I had mentioned, I'm not a money type of person. So it took a lot for me to even have those conversations. And so when I would do interviews, I'd be like, oh, I'm okay between this range and this range. And it's like, no, you should have the exact amount. Like if there's a certain amount you want,
Right.
don't lower it. And you know what I mean? Don't give yourself an in between, because 9 times out of 10, they're gonna go with the lower value because you gave them that opportunity.
Anything
And so
overshoot. If you're looking for $15 an hour,
right,
shoot for 18 or 19.
right,
They're gonna tell you they can't do it, and the lowest that they can do is $15.
which is what you wanted anyway. Exactly.
You know what I mean?
Exactly. And that's very true. And it's crazy because, I have also held interviews a lot of times. So it was beautiful to have conversations with vets, like, CEOs of, like a bunch of different people that I'm interviewing, and I'm listening to their conversation. I'm listening to how they carry themselves. And some of the most effective interviews that I've taken have been with people that just know what they want. You know what I mean? Like, hey, I'm going to be honest with you, the way the economy is out here, I can't survive off of anything less than this. There's that, you're being honest with me. You know what I mean? And I'll be honest with you. Like, absolutely, I can definitely let them know, once you move forward to the next interview, they'll be able to have that conversation with you. Granted, when you get off of that phone, who's going to get that or not. You know what I mean? But the fact of the matter is that there are a lot of people that are willing to put a true definition of what they think they deserve on the table. But then there's also a lot of people that just need a job. And I think that's where it starts to get a little confusing, because they just want whatever they can get and they feel like they have to settle. You know what I mean? And it's because they don't really have time to negotiate. They just need something with some type of security. But I think once you realize nothing is secure, you got to fight for yourself no matter what. You know what I mean? And you're here for a good time or a long time. You know what I mean? That applies to this work stuff too. So period.
Well, I think this has been a absolute great conversation.
Yes.
I feel like we got a lot out in regards to being professional. Definitely got the mind going with your inspiration, and it's you need to think about those things. You need to go to those places. Some people more than others, where they have to find that inspiration again because it's just a depressing life or depressing day or whatever. So you got to keep digging down. But moving forward, we're going to continue to touch on like the 8 areas of self care, and I think that honestly, I feel like I want to go into like the psyche. I want to talk about your mental, um, and going into our vlog number 4, because I'm thinking people just have to understand the way they think, and they have to understand how others think. That's I think that's like the main issue. Understanding how to take on what somebody else is thinking and how to respond to that. You don't have to consume it all. That's them, that's what they do, but I think I want to touch more on that. Renee, do you feel comfortable doing the psyche?
Absolutely. I mean, that goes right back to what I said about, people aren't against you, they're for themselves. I feel like that's my statement. At any point where I feel like that's what people are struggling with, that's what I go with. So I'm absolutely down to have that conversation, because I think it's beneficial, and I think everybody struggles with it one way or another.
Right, right. Um, well, yeah, and then also I just wanted to touch back real quick on one of the things that Ronnie said. For the people out there who don't have a support system and they don't have these, people like us in their corner or whatever the case may be, we're always available to give you a comment or give you some instruction or give you some information on what we did and how we did it, on a deeper end. Because this is just scratching the surface, just us going back and forth and kind of just having a conversation. But
Mhm.
more so, if you're needing something a little bit more than that, you can always reach out to us. I know I'm always open to help somebody. I've even built platforms for that. But for some odd reason, people who do need it don't go for these platforms. But you'll be on Facebook, you'll be on Instagram, you'll be scrolling, looking for this confirmation from other people when you can just
Right.
ask questions and get what you need from this person or that person. So we are going to have the website up, and we're going to have information where you can go directly to the link and ask us direct questions. And it's just going to be me and Ronnie who will be answering them. And I think that's our way of being a support system to everybody out there who needs one, as much as we can, because we have our own lives, we have our own businesses and all that. But you make time for certain situations. And a support system is what everybody needs to even be able to take that first step to doing something great. You can't do it without a support system. So, just throwing that out there. If you need help, you need some direction, you will be able to you'll be able to contact us through the links and get that.
All righty. Well, thank you, everybody, for joining us. Until next time and moving forward, thank you so much. And think about what inspires you today.
Yes. All right. And listen, wash your hands, people. Wash your hands.
Please wash them. At least once a day.
Bye.